Across the Desk
with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
So if you are watching us on YouTube, you'll probably learn a thing or two in as far as sign language is concerned. I think I'll ask them to teach me something basic. And because you're watching on YouTube, you can learn together with us, right? If you want to go check it out, just go to the 702 YouTube page to watch and listen to this conversation with sign language interpreters. And we want to find out more about the work that they do. And if you've got some questions, some inputs, or maybe you are in the industry yourself, you can give us a call on 011-883-0702 to share your experiences with us. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Let me introduce you to my guests. We've got Eula Dunstone in studio with us. Thank you so much for coming through. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, and you?
How do I say hello?
So just hello.
Just that.
Yeah,
hello.
So from your forehead, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
That's
or
it.
You could actually just wave.
Or
If you
just
forget
even
that,
wave.
you could actually just say.
Okay. Hello. Eula Dunstone. We also have Sinovuyo Fihlani, who's also a sign language interpreter. Sinovuyo, thank you so much for also coming through. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. And then we've got Eugidia Jose, who's also a sign language interpreter. Eugidia, thank you for also coming through. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, I'm really fascinated about how you guys got into sign language interpreting. And I'll start with you, Eula. What was it for you? Have you, growing up, always wanted to do this?
So my parents were deaf, so I did just growing up. You find yourself interpreting for them at various places, and then I had left work to look after my kids, and then I wanted to go back into something I enjoyed, and it was interpreting. So I decided to go just be qualified, and then I've just been working as a freelance interpreter.
How did you navigate it with your parents? Like, did they take you guys to school so that there can be ease of communication, or did you just have to learn as you go?
So people always ask that question, but it's like learning any language. You learn the language of your parents.
Yes,
so if they had a home signing to me, that's what I learned. I learned English because the rest of my family were year-in. You watch TV, you do go to a year-in school.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I don't think there were ever any issues that I had to overcome. You just learn sign language as you do any other language.
Because you're picking up from what's happening in the household.
Yes.
Sinovuyo, and for you? How did you get into it?
So my story is the same as Eula. My parents are deaf, so I'm born in a family and in a home where South African Sign Language is the first language. It's our mother language. So obviously grew up communicating in sign language with my parents and my siblings at home. And then obviously after that, when you grow up constantly interpreting for your parents, you might not want to practice as an interpreter. However, life happened, and I figured that, interpreting is my passion. Providing access is a passion, and it's something that I really do enjoy, and it fulfills me. So that's how I got into the profession and, decided to actually practice as an interpreter.
Yeah.
So,
Eugidia?
So mine is slightly different. I do not have any deaf parents. My first encounter with sign language and interpreting happened when I was 16 years old. I came across a deaf person in my community. I was fascinated that there were deaf people, really, and that this community uses their hands to communicate. I thought that was really fascinating, and that curiosity led me to want to learn the language, and I subsequently did. I started learning the language, and I immersed myself in the deaf community, deaf culture, and that's really when, I think the bug bit me.
Yeah. Is it difficult to learn as a language? Is it difficult to learn? Because there are some people like, I really want to learn how to do it, but I feel like it's just so complex.
So I think that's a difficult question, and I'm not too sure if Sino would agree with me because I grew up with it. So it's like asking me, was English difficult? Well, I don't know. So I don't think it is. The reason why I say I don't think it is, but maybe because I've also got a background with sign language, is that there are so many different dialects of sign language. But when you go into different communities, I find it's quite easy to pick up on the different dialects. I also think that what's important is, as Dia has just said, I think if you also immerse yourself in the deaf community also, I think then it's also easier to pick up, not just trying to learn. Of course, courses are important, but not just trying to learn through a course, also just immersing yourself with the deaf community and making friends with all sorts of people.
Yeah. Sino, please tell us more about these different dialects or regional variations within the South African Sign Language. And do you guys have to, as sign language interpreters, need to be aware and mindful of all of the different dialects?
So in terms of dialects, there's definitely dialects in South African Sign Language. Obviously because deaf people are in different areas and different locations within South Africa. And within that community, they might create a certain sign and obviously it becomes a regional sign. And that's how dialects are formed. Like in any other language, even in spoken language, there are dialects. And also in terms of, as an interpreter, you have to learn different dialects as a professional interpreter, because you are servicing to the deaf community in different parts of South Africa. You have to ensure that you provide access in a dialect or signs that they understand. So you have to be able to adapt, and adapting means you have to practice, you have to train, you have to keep up with the new terminology, with the new dialects and the new signs. So yeah, that's definitely very important to learn and understand different dialects.
Yeah. What would you guys say are your biggest challenges that you face as an interpreter, especially when working in, fast-paced or emotionally charged environments? And maybe you can tell us which industries you're in, like maybe in the courts, hospitals or live television. What are some of the challenges for you, Eugidia, in the space you work in?
I think the key challenge is the constant shift in settings. So you could go from interpreting in a medical setting to a legal setting, to an educational setting. And so keeping up with the jargons, the language used in those settings is really, really difficult. So you, as an interpreter, you have to adapt constantly and be open to feedback, be open to constantly learning, being willing to learn. But also I think, I'm a big proponent for specialization. I believe that interpreters should specialize because you cannot know everything.
Yeah.
If, for example, in a legal setting, they talk about like a mandamus application, de novo. What does that mean if you don't work in a legal setting? How do you even spell it? Because a lot of legal terminologies are from the Latin language.
Yes.
So if you're not familiar with the terminologies in these settings, it gets difficult to interpret, because you cannot interpret what you don't understand. You first have to understand. So I work at a part-time at a law firm, and I think before working there, I would not have accepted an assignment in court, for example. I think now I'm well equipped to work in courts, interpret in legal settings, because of that background that I now have. So it's very important to specialize, especially in settings like your medical, legal settings, because it does require specialized training.
Yeah. And for you, what space are you in, and what have been the challenges particularly for you?
So I think similar to what Dia said. Sorry, I've been drinking water to try and ease my throat. I think similar to what Dia has said, there's so many different settings, and often the person speaking or teaching or, whoever it is, forget that you as the interpreter, you're not actually an expert in this field. Such as, so a lawyer might just continue talking, or a grade 12 pure maths teacher may just continue talking. And as an interpreter, you are not an expert in pure maths. The last time we did maths was many years ago and we've forgotten. So I think often the speaker will just continue on, very fast pace, and maybe forgetting that there's an interpreter. Now, sometimes it's good that they forget there's an interpreter, because as an interpreter, you don't want to be seen. You want the communication to be smooth. But sometimes then, as I mentioned, then they forget that there's an interpreter and you're struggling. So there are specific ways that you do get taught how to maybe stop the speaker, ask for clarity. There are certain ways, but you don't want to do that too often and then really break the flow of communication. So I think the speakers may be forgetting that there's an interpreter, and also I think just the different settings. Some settings are just more difficult than other settings.
Yeah, what space do you normally operate in?
So I do a variety. So funny enough, I don't like doing courts, but I'll do educational settings, business meetings, sometimes medical settings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And for you, Sino?
So I am in the media space, specifically within the news. So I interpret in a news channel. So that is the space that I am within, and it is a very different space. It's a space that requires you to have an understanding of the importance of working in a now. So it's like live. You have to ensure that you place yourself mentally, cognitively, in terms of information, in terms of keeping up with the news, in terms of keeping up with what's happening, not just in South Africa, but in the world. And also just ensuring that you can render and deliver the message across different people in South Africa, from the rural areas, in the urban areas, and your deaf audience have to understand you. So it's just you having to be able to ensure that your interpretation and will be able to get across to different people in different educational backgrounds, in different settings, from adults to kids, because you're actually servicing to everyone. So the media space is quite different. It's quite difficult. So if you're able to understand that, and you're able to produce in that standard and also providing quality at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than media, I'm also freelancing. So I'm in different spaces, corporate, academic. So yeah.
Do you guys ever make mistakes, and how do you deal with that?
Of course you do. You do. But I think when you live on TV, you don't really have an opportunity to say, sorry, I made a mistake. You just have to keep it moving. And that's why it's very important that when you're working in that space, you have to be, your mind has to be leveled up. You literally have to give it 110. Your concentration has to be on par. You have to literally, know what you're doing at the point in time. But outside of it, if you make a mistake, we're human. At the end of the day, we're not robots, So you can then say, I made a mistake, or you can say, interpreter's mistake, and you have an ability to actually rectify the mistake that you've made.
Yeah.
But the pressure is high. The pressure is too much.
Yeah. 20 minutes after 10 o'clock, I'm hosting sign language interpreters on our Across the Desk feature this morning. You're welcome to join this conversation on 011-883-0702. I'll take your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702.
Across the Desk
With Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
24 minutes after 10 o'clock, we've got sign language interpreters on our Across the Desk feature this morning. What question have you always wanted to ask them? What do you want to understand about their work? You can call or send a WhatsApp voice note. Let's start with Charles, who's calling us from Pretoria. Charles, good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
All right, man. Go ahead.
Yes, Clement. First of all, I want to thank you for bringing these ladies on the show today. Sure. And I was one person that was also fascinated about sign language. Before, if I can just give you a small testimony, I used to drive commuter taxis. Yeah. So there would come people that are deaf, and now they want to tell you where they are going. And that time you don't even understand what they are saying. So it was something that was always in my mind to say, no, I need to learn, I need to communicate, I need to also know how to sign. So fortunately, a few months back, I managed to take a class at church. This one was offered at church. It's part of the curriculum of our young youth. They do sign language as an honor. So I was so happy because now I can sign my name, I can greet, I can follow as I sometimes watch on the news.
Yeah.
So I only did it once. So now what I wanted to ask is, where can we go and learn? Because it's nice also to learn that they've got dialects. So amazed. Yeah, that when you see them talking there, you think, okay, it's just something that they only understand themselves. But if you right now, if I can see on the news, I can actually follow with the volume low. I can follow and I can see how, or I can understand what the next person is saying.
That's
it's
amazing.
so amazing. So we're in a community where we are having more of them. But now sometimes you shy off because you cannot speak, you cannot sign, you cannot say anything. You are afraid to say something that is going to maybe, provoke them.
Or maybe can be offensive. Yeah, I hear you, Charles. I'll ask them that question. Where do you study full time? Let's go to Phineas, who's calling from Johannesburg. Phineas, how are you?
I'm good, and how are you, Clement?
I'm all right. What's your story?
Yeah, okay, thank you. This is an interesting topic. I have a team. I'm working for EWC.
Yeah.
I'm a supervisor. I have 2 ladies who are deaf. So it's more interesting. I've learned to do sign language because these ladies will also always insist on saying, no, you don't have to write down. You have to do sign language.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how I started to learn to do sign language.
Yeah.
Because even on the boards, there are those sign language for the alpha, the A up to Z.
Yeah.
With a sign language, and that's how now I started to do.
Amazing.
The ABCs. I know how to do ABC up until Z with sign language.
That's amazing.
Interesting it's more interesting to learn. So it's learning every day. We learn every day because now they don't want us to sit down and write.
Yeah, got you. Phineas in Johannesburg, thank you. Let me take Barry as well in the Vaal. Barry, hi.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
Good. Let's ask, while they were speaking, I was actually thinking, what was their reaction or their thoughts on the Yankees when he actually interpreted Nelson Mandela?
During Mandela's
what were they thinking? Yeah, what were they thinking about it?
Yeah, got you. Barry, I'm sure, because we woke up to that later, because we watched it, but for some of us who don't understand sign language, we were like, oh, this guy's working. Until much later when people are like, no. So, what did you guys think? And then I'll ask one of you to also respond to the question from Charles about where people can go study full time if they want to study sign language.
So I think on the Thamsanqa Yankees saga, I think it took what happened in the Nelson Mandela funeral for South Africa to actually take South African Sign Language and deaf people seriously. It was an unfortunate event that it had happened in that manner for them to actually be like, oh shucks, there's actually deaf people in South Africa. There's actually deaf people in our homes, in our community. And South African Sign Language is a language for them, for accessibility and the importance of it. So obviously after that, there was a light bulb everywhere. Everyone was like, oh my God, this is serious. The world was looking at us and it was humiliation. It was not the nicest thing that we are making headlines in other countries, because of having a fake interpreter. So I think from that, it was a wake-up call, not just to to people at home, but to government, and also in institutions, in media, and in different spaces, that South African Sign Language is a language and there has to be respect around it.
Absolutely.
You know, it is a right, it is a linguistic right for deaf people within South Africa, and there's importance into it. So, yeah.
Did he know some basics?
No, he didn't. He didn't know South African Sign Language. He didn't know.
Goodness.
He didn't know even the basics. He knew nothing about it.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah.
Hectic.
So yeah, it was.
Yeah, okay. After the headlines, I'll get you guys to respond to that question from Charles as well around where we can study full time. It's 10:31.
Across the desk
with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
24 minutes before 11 o'clock. I've got sign language interpreters on our Across the Desk feature this morning, and I want to take more of your questions as well. I see WhatsApps that are coming through. I'll get to them in a moment, and some calls. But first of all, let's go back to Charles's questions about where to study full time. What are the places where people can go study?
Okay, so what you can study, interpreters typically undergo formal training. So there are degree and diploma programs for sign language and interpreting.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, we encourage aspiring interpreters to also gain experience, practical experience. So it's not enough to just learn the language and get the theory right. You need to also get the practical component. So volunteering, shadowing experienced interpreters. It's a very, very good way to get your foot in the door if you're interested in being a qualified interpreter.
Okay.
In Gauteng, Wits University offers interpreting and translation programs, degrees.
Okay.
So if you're interested, you could go there.
Oh, okay, perfect. Eula, you were telling me off air about the importance of expression.
Yes.
So I did hello, and I said, how are you?
How are you?
How
Yes.
are you? And you said expression is also important.
Yes,
Why is
yes.
that so?
Remember now, spoken languages it's not visual. Sign language is a visual language. So you're shutting off your ears. Everything is visual. So, so if I say, I'm saying I'm sad, but I have no expression, it's almost like if I had to come to you and I say, Shama, yeah, you're sick. How are you? And you go, I'm feeling sick today. It was just that flat tone. It's almost like that. It almost makes no sense if your expressions don't actually match what you're saying. Because again, you're switching off your ears. Everything is visual.
Aha. Okay,
Yes.
I see. There's a question we got earlier on about whether do we have enough interpreters in the country to meet the demand across the country, particularly in public services. Do we have enough, or do we still need more?
No, unfortunately not. We definitely need more interpreters. Currently, according to stats, they say there are about plus minus 4 million deaf and hard of hearing individuals.
Okay.
And there are about less than 200 practicing interpreters. So we definitely need more interpreters.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to those WhatsApps, Abel, on 072 702 1702.
Hi, Clement. I'm a coder myself, and I have the deepest admiration and respect for interpreters. It is not an easy language, and it constantly evolves. I've been in spaces where I've had to interpret for my parents, and it is not an easy job. So I respect interpreters. Shout out to everyone in the studio. You guys are doing you're doing an absolutely amazing job.
Good morning, Clement and your guests. You're speaking to Lola from North Riding. I just want to ask the ladies that something that we're always curious about when you're watching, maybe if it's a press conference or a presidential address on the TV, often see the sign language interpreters kind of like taking shifts. Then when one is finished, then another one comes through and carries on. I've always been curious to find out that, is it tiring or the reason that they do it? Thank you very much.
Yeah. We can answer that first. Is it tiring? What's the reason for the shift?
It It is tiring because remember you are working between two language combinations, and each language has its own structure, grammar, and syntax. So now if you are listening in English and you're producing it in the SASL, you listen in English grammar, and then in your brain you have to sort of like change it in SASL structure, the grammar and the syntax, and then you have to produce, and all of that happens in probably 0.5 seconds because you're interpreting simultaneously. So simultaneous interpreting is a mode of interpreting where the speaker speaks, you listen, and you interpret almost at the same time. When you interpret in SASL, you have to adhere to the grammar, the syntax, and also ensuring that the deaf person understands you. So cognitively, there's different steps and energies. There's listening, comprehension, and production. So it is cognitively strenuous for you to listen in another language and produce in another language. So it's not only cognitively tiring and strenuous and an overload, but physically in your body, you're standing, you're using your hands to actually do the job. So that's why we always have to swap in 30 minutes to ensure that we maintain quality in our interpretation, because after 30 minutes you probably won't be able to produce quality interpretation because your brain is fried. You're already tired. There's too much too much information. So that's why we constantly have to swap. That's the importance of working in a team. That's the importance of always having 2 to 3 interpreters in whatever event that will operate for more than an hour, because it's very strenuous. And I think the most important thing that we strive for is quality, is providing good quality service and interpretation.
Okay.
Morning. I've always been fascinated about sign language and always wondered, is sign language a language on its own completely, or do you sign language in Setswana, do you sign language in Sepedi, sign language in English, sign language in Afrikaans? I've always wanted to know that.
Anyone?
Okay, so that can actually be quite a complicated question. So I think, as my 2 colleagues here have alluded to, it is a language on its own, with its own structure, with its own rules. A language like any other language that needs to be respected as such. I'm not going to go into the deep history of things, but, many centuries ago, sign language, a lot of children weren't taught sign language. And then I think it came from France. A man actually said, no, we need to, they are intelligent and they are linguistically able. So then he pushed the whole idea of sign language. And then what had happened, I think around 1880s, that there was a conference in Milan. No deaf people were involved, but all the people that were involved decided that actually sign language is not a good thing. Oralism is better. They thought it would just be better education. So in South Africa, you had people coming from Ireland. The other 2 ladies must just correct me if I'm wrong. Ireland, German, the Netherlands, Britain, and they all sort of established their own schools. Now, a lot of times now we're talking now during apartheid, the European children or the white children, the government thought oralism was better for them. So they got taught English, but then in their own time they would also adapt their own signs, because that's just how deaf people communicate, is using signs. And then in a lot of the non-white schools, they were very isolated based on the communities that they were from. And then they would be taught maybe because at that time the government thought oralism was better, but then they weren't too worried about the non-white children because it was during apartheid, so they maybe taught them a different way, or they came up with their own signs. So sign language is its own independent language that should be respected as such, but it is also heavily influenced on where you grew up, what your mother tongue is, which school you went to, what province you're from, which goes back to the various dialects.
Yeah, okay, got it. There's a question here about how would you describe the level of accessibility for deaf South Africans in schools and government services, in media? Eugidia, do you think we're doing enough? Are we making progress on that front?
I do think we're making progress, but I think we can do more. specifically within the educational space and in media, for example. I think broadcasting houses or media houses could look into hiring or using more sign language interpreters, ensuring that there is sign language interpreters available 24/7 to ensure that news is accessible 24/7, not just for that 1 hour in the morning or that 1 hour in the evening. Current affairs should be accessible at all times for deaf people. So although we've come a long way and there is progress, there is a lot more that I think we should be doing or that we can do.
14 minutes now before 11 o'clock. We'll come back and continue this conversation as we wrap it up. We'll do so with more of your calls and WhatsApps.
Across the desk
with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
It's going up to 10 minutes before 11 o'clock. We're just about to wrap up our conversation with the sign language interpreters that we're hosting on our Across the Desk feature this morning. And I've got more of your messages coming through. On Twitter, Lindy says, "Hi Clement, thanks for hosting the sign language interpreters. Much love and respect to them. A sign language interpreter was a lifesaver for my niece through high school and tertiary, where she earned 2 degrees, thanks to those institutions as well who accommodated her needs." And then another one on the WhatsApp line says, "Hi Clement, I'm Sibongile, one of the South African sign language interpreters in Saudi. I just want to give a shout out to all the incredible sign language interpreters across South Africa. Thank you for being the vital bridge between the deaf community and the world. Your work is not just about translation, it's about connection, access and inclusion. You bring voices to hands and hands to hearts." That's a message there from Swangile. Oh, that's
beautiful.
So beautiful. And then Margaret says, "Clement, please can you ask your guests if sign language in other countries has overlaps with the South African language? I've always thought that sign language could or should be a truly international language." That's a question there from Margaret. Is it universal across?
Sign language is not universal. So it's based on, regions. But there are overlaps, especially with regards to American Sign Language. A lot of different sign languages use or loan signs from American Sign Language. So there are overlaps, especially with American Sign Language.
Okay.
Because it is more developed than a lot of other sign languages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Saki also says, "Clement, I just want to find out if it's possible for a person who speaks only one language to learn sign language in that particular language. You can do that?"
No. I can't say you can learn in that language. So I'm a Xhosa native speaker, right? However, when you learn sign language, you learn South African Sign Language. You don't learn isiXhosa Sign Language because there isn't isiXhosa Sign Language. There isn't Sepedi Sign Language. There isn't Zulu Sign Language. There's purely South African Sign Language. So when you then learn sign language, you're learning South African Sign Language. But the nicest thing about learning South African Sign Language is that you become multilingual. You can boast and be like, I know different languages. You know your native language, you know South African Sign Language, and therefore you're able to communicate in different languages. But you don't necessarily learn isiXhosa Sign Language, purely South African Sign Language in its own.
Morning, Clement and team. My question is as follows. Do deaf people, say for instance, I'm a baby and I'm deaf, I was born deaf, do they automatically understand the sign language, or do they need to go through some kind of training or education in relation to the sign language itself? This question, it's been getting itlhohleleditswe ke hore is sign language also structured based on a specific language, say English or Afrikaans or Sepedi?
I think that's what you've just touched on now, yeah?
Yeah, I think if I can add on that, deaf people need to go to schools. So when you take your child who's deaf to the deaf school, that's when they learn sign language, because obviously at home there isn't sign language as a form of communication, so they don't know the language. However, when you take them to deaf schools, that's where they learn sign language. But because to them it's natural, they learn very, very quick. So that's how deaf people then, they also have to learn the language, because obviously they're born in hearing families. Because I think we can say 80% of deaf people are born in hearing families, and obviously they don't know sign language. And that's why we stress the importance of taking your child in a special school, in a deaf school, where they will then meet other deaf children, and then when they get there, they learn sign language.
Yeah. Can sign language also be prejudicial in its descriptions? Like, can it be offensive? Like, I don't know, when you're referring to a race, or do you find yourself there where you have to try and remember to still be sort of politically correct, so to speak?
I think for people who are not in the deaf community or are not familiar with sign language, it's easy to take offense because they don't understand the rules of the language, the grammar, non-manual features, and why that is so important in the language. So I think for people who are not part of the deaf community, you could easily take offense, especially with regards to sign names. Sign names are given based on your quirks, your facial structure, your facial expressions, how you look, basically. And so if you have a feature that you may not like, and a deaf person gives you a sign name based on that feature, you may take offense to it, but really we shouldn't. That is just a way for the deaf community. Sign names is a way for the deaf community to identify you, because that becomes your name. That's how the deaf community identifies you. So I think.
So I can decide the name for myself? Like,
no, deaf people, even as interpreters, we shouldn't be giving out sign names. This is something that lies solely on deaf people. We ask deaf people to give sign names. So they look at you, and based on your quirks, your facial, well, not your facial expression, but your facial structure, they will then give you a sign name that is appropriate to that. And we have to accept it. We can't change your sign name because you just don't like it.
Have you guys been given sign names too?
Yeah, we all have sign names. And we identify or we address each other using sign names.
So what sign name would I get? Based on my...
There's no deaf person to give you a
they
sign.
would have to. So even as interpreters, you're not allowed. You can't do that.
It's advised that we leave that to
Leave
deaf
it to
people.
them.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Okay. What is the most fulfilling thing about your job? Let me start with you. What would you say fulfills you the most about this work that you do?
So I think, without sounding corny or cliched, it really is bridging that gap. And there's nothing nicer than whether, say for example, you're in a classroom and you're interpreting, and you can see the deaf student, just their eyes light up and they get it. And that's such a nice feeling. So like I can see that they got it and I'm helping them. I think that's just a nice feeling. And also just meeting different people. You also often meet the same person again, or you know this deaf person from maybe your social circle, because the deaf community is small. And then it's always nice just seeing them, getting to know more people. But also, like I say, that look in their eyes when they get it. That's a nice feeling, I think, for me.
I think our response is, the core might be accessibility, but I think for me it is just knowing that I was able to provide a space for a deaf person to be seen, to be heard, and to be understood. And I am then used as the tool for them to feel like to be a part of the world, to have their voice, heard. Through South African Sign Language and through me as an interpreter. So that does bring so much fulfillment, to me at the end of the day, that, I'm definitely that bridge.
I think the ladies have covered my thoughts, but I think to just bring it home, I interpret part-time for the first deaf lawyer in the country.
Wow.
which is remarkable.
Yes.
And I mean, he's worked so hard to be where he is. And being in a position to create access for someone who's doing such an important job it's an incredible feeling. And it's something that I don't take lightly, you know, because he is showing that deaf people are more than capable, and we all know that deaf people are more than capable of doing what hearing people can do.
Yes.
But in doing the work that he does, he really shows that there should be more opportunities for deaf people, and through sign language interpretation, we're able to let young deaf people study law, study medicine, or whatever the qualification they wish to pursue. So I think for me, what really, I think that gives me fulfillment.
Yeah.
Seeing it make a difference in someone's life, and seeing someone seize opportunities as a result of accessibility.
Oh, that's amazing. Ladies, thank you so much for coming through. I think we've learned so much about sign language, and we really appreciate the work that you do. Thank you so much to you,
Thank you.
Sinovuyo and Eugidia. And I'm sure you've just been blessed as well to listen to this conversation. It's 11 o'clock.